There's two kinds of people for sale on this plantation, or to be put on this plantation. Over on the islands, including but not limited to Barbados, and also right here in America, right here in the United States of America, or in some cases, the not so United States of America, where there are political differences, on American soil and also on the islands. Okay, so one group of people is the Irish, and the other is African. Okay, and when I say Irish, that's you could also be Scottish and included in that. All right. A lot of times when I say Irish, I include the Scots, and when I say Scottish, such as Scottish Declaration of Independence, I include the Irish, claim the same liberation for the Irish, and so on. Now, sad but true, part of history in this slave lineup at this auction, I guess we could call it. There's a price tag. A price tag on the head or on the back or on the arm, wherever it's stamped, and both my Irish and my African slaves. And this part of history is really harsh. It's almost too hard to talk about. It's really painful to talk about. But we're going to cover it anyway. It's a real ugly part of history. And then we're going to tap it. And the question is, why would there be a difference in price tag on the African and Irish slaves that are being put up for auction? And it really comes down to two things, which are one, and that's the temperature and the climate. The temperature and the climate. And this is the reason why the price tags would vary on a scale. And this is an extremely tragic part of Irish American history, that so many of the Irish slaves, they were brutally murdered. And a lot of it has to do with the temperature and climate. They were not conditioned in any way and to be able to handle this brutal sun. So this inhumane treatment of being put under this brutal sun and not having been born and bred in a hot climate like well, not as hot as Africa, not coming from African soil, and having sensitive skin that's sensitive to the sunlight, more so sensitive, is the reason why a lot of my Irish slaves perished on these plantations. And from the perspective of the slave owner, or the person who's going to the auction house, purchasing these slaves, they're thinking in what terms: return for my labor. And the Irish were not made for that, to be put under the sun for that many hours. It was brutal for any human being, but especially so brutal for the Irish to be put in such a harsh climate. So the slave owner, or the person at the auction house purchasing the slave, might gamble on the African slaves being able to, more so able to cope with the extreme heat. And that's the reason why there's a price tag difference by African and Irish slaves. And possibly also a reason why the Irish and African might have done different kinds of labor. I don't know, I wasn't there. But these are just questions that we can raise and we can talk about. And then the other question that's floating around all over the internet is, were the Irish slaves or indentured servants and all that? And there's a heated argument over whether or not the Irish were even slaves. I don't engage in that argument, since, the bottom line is that those who claim that the Irish were not slaves are swimming in the river of denial. There could be. Or those who are just persistent on covering up the fact that the Irish were slaves, could just have an agenda to continue to dump this bucket of whiteout over Irish American history.